welcome. Thank you for joining Chamber Live today. We are going to have an exciting program. I am Jerry Libin, President and CEO of the Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce. We're going to be talking with my friends that are in studio today about an exciting technology that is revolutionizing the world. It is actually the greatest technology to hit us since the internet itself. Let me first start by thanking and introducing our panelists that will be joining me today. To my immediate left, Erica Gemma. She's the co-founder of the Blockchain Center. Thank you for joining us. Next to her is Spencer Lyon, Director of Industry Relations at Drawbacks. Spencer, welcome.
Thank you.
And Jen Todd, a very good friend of ours from the Chamber. Jen Todd is Business Development Director for Todd and Partners. And I also want to, at the start of our program, thank Streaming for You, our friends Patricio, for putting on this production. Thank you all for being here today. So we're going to be talking about blockchain. And I guess let's start with Erica and Spencer. Give us a little background. What is blockchain?
So the easiest way to put it is that blockchain is a chain of blocks, and in each of these blocks, it's filled with transactions. So it's a ledger that is much fancier than any ledger and much more high-tech than any ledger we've had to deal with before.
And the way I like to put it, to break it down, is especially for people that don't necessarily need to know the technicalities, just like you don't need to know how your refrigerator works. You just know that you can get water and ice out of it and it keeps things cold, right? So I tell people blockchain is a database. It is an information storage system that is extremely efficient, and then it provides a lot of benefits because of how it's built on. So that's if you just think about it at its core of it being a database, a resource of how we access information, then we can move on to like its actual use cases.
The best way to think about it is it increases efficiency, it increases transparency, and it decreases costs, which is why people are so interested in using it. The way that I explain it simply to people is everyone knows what Excel is. Everyone has Excel is essentially a ledger where you have transactions after transactions after transactions. And what's cool about this Excel spreadsheet is a couple things. The first thing that's cool is that once information makes it onto this sheet, it can't be taken off. The second cool thing is that everybody has a copy, a live updated copy of this sheet. And the third cool thing is that in order for information to make it onto this sheet, it has to pass a vetting process to where 51% of the people need to approve that the information is correct.
So unlike a spreadsheet before blockchain, I could send you a spreadsheet and you could change the figures. And then we have different information.
Right.
Okay. Also, you could copy it and send it to Jen. Jen could change something, and that, again, would have misinformation, disinformation, either intentionally or unintentionally, which could cause confusion in the market.
Like that game, phone call or telephone, where you tell the secret.
Telephone, right. By the time it goes around the circle,
right.
Who knows what comes out.
Yeah.
So, Spencer, tell me, how did all this get started?
I want to say this really took place back in 2007, 2008. There was two major events. Technology was on a rise. Cloud computing was getting faster. The types of devices connected to the internet were growing excessively. So we were having what was called a technology inflection point, where things started just developing faster and faster. But also during that time, I'm sure we all remember, was also one of the biggest crises we've had, economic crises we've had in a long time, right? This made a lot of people mad, especially the technologists that were working on really cool things and trying to bring a lot of innovation to the space. From there on, Satoshi Nakamoto wrote the Bitcoin paper, and then the Genesis block was born. The first block of blockchain for Bitcoin was 2008, correct? And so from then on, people were like, well, we wanted to create this thing to help avoid situations like the mortgage crisis.
And this thing being blockchain.
Correct.
So the concept of blockchain was born out of a necessity or a perceived necessity to overcome problems, which were what?
Oh, well, this in particular, the first use case was money or currency, right? Because of how the banks printed trillions of dollars overnight, caused so much mishaps and caused so many people to lose so much of their own money. They wanted to use this technology to build a good use case, and currency was the first use case.
Right. So when a central bank creates billions of new dollars, it devalues money.
Right.
And we
Yeah.
see that around the world,
Yeah.
in country after country where the money, just becomes
Right. I mean, you
worth
can look
less
at-
and less.
Right. You look at Venezuela, for example, and it's a good, most current one that we can look at. $78,000. I had a good visual I used for a lot of presentations. It's a stack of money like this back in 2004 or something like that,
Yeah.
and then to 2017 or
yeah.
2012, it was valued at like $28 or something like that, and
Yeah.
it's
You
just
take the stack of money
Yeah.
and you buy lunch.
yeah, exactly.
So, Erica, you're really in the crypto space. And so tell us a little bit about what's the difference between cryptocurrency and blockchain, and how do they, I'm sorry, Jen, you're in that space more. And so tell me a little bit about the difference between cryptocurrency and blockchain.
Sure. So cryptocurrency, like Spencer said, was the first use case. So there are cryptocurrencies that rely upon blockchain in order for the transactions to occur, the back and forths, and then those transactions are recorded onto the blockchain. So Bitcoin has its own blockchain. Ethereum, which is another currency, has its own blockchain. So that's like the relationship between the two. The difference is that you can use a blockchain and not have a transaction of currency. It can be used as, like we were talking about earlier, a database, storage of information for companies that have vast amounts of data and want it, recorded in a better, more efficient way.
And we're going to look at some of those cases in just a little bit, and how it can be utilized, and is in fact being utilized globally today. But Spencer, maybe talk to us a little bit about what some of the benefits are. Why would a company use blockchain today?
Yeah. So, like Erica mentioned earlier, the transparency of the information, the speed at which you can access the information, and the reduction of costs in most cases are like some of the major benefits that are really harped on when talking about blockchain and cryptocurrencies. For those industries in particular, this is a good way of kind of weeding out which one might be the best use case or best industry to actually use this technology, right? So people that are having to access massive amounts of data, for example, and need to do it very quickly would be a good, let's say, project or something to work on. So that speed that enables them is like one of the major benefits in this case for this kind of technology.
So earlier, Erica was explaining how people on the system all need to concur with the information. How is it that it happens quickly? What if someone is not paying attention to the? I guess I'm not really following. So if you've got 1 million people in your system, and you say it's all going to be confirmed quickly, how is it exactly that these 1 million people either do or don't react until that block of information is closed and becomes part of the blockchain when the new block is attached?
Well, it depends. It depends on which blockchain you're
Yeah.
using. For example, on the Bitcoin blockchain, every 10 minutes, that new block of information is closed, but it's not actually people that's monitoring it. What it is, and which makes this a system that people really appreciate, is it's not people behind the scenes anymore. It's math. It's numbers. It's computers running a software program that is validating that I have what I say I have, and I'm able to send to a certain person. So what's really cool about specifically the Bitcoin blockchain is that you now have these transactions that do not have the fallacy of like human error coming into play.
And the other really thing, you did a great job there, was like part of that network. I mean, the internet, you can send a text message now and it gets to somebody in seconds, right? So you think about that on a global scale, and the cool thing about blockchains is it usually utilizes the extra storage space or RAM space on people of the network or the participants, so that way all of the parties involved are contributing that speed of access, that information access portal. So it helps be able to quickly be able to get some kind of decision made. And like Erica said, the mining aspect of it and the cryptography aspect of it all make it limit the amount of human error that can actually take place.
You mentioned mining, and I know that that's a little bit, deep.
Yeah.
Okay, but
Yeah.
but can one of you give me a little bit of information about how that information is mined and what's the significance of mining? Why do people mine? What does it mean?
So
Yeah.
mining is essentially verifying that the blockchain is correct. Now, like Jen said, there's multiple different blockchains. So I have to specifically talk about the Bitcoin blockchain because that's the most prominent. It's been around for 10 years. The one that's actually has this use case of money that has been proven. Now, Bitcoin mining is the benefit of that, and it kind of plays into game theory a little bit, is that when you are validating the system, you get rewarded in coins if your computer is the one that solves the problem. So what it does is it really makes the integrity one that you don't have bad actors. Because if you are a bad actor and you are maybe
putting false information.
Yeah, putting false information out there, then you lose out and you're not going to win the coins.
It also costs you money. Like you have to like contribute some kind of currency to play the game, really. Cryptography has enabled this. It creates a problem that the network has to solve. Once the network solves it, it creates the block. That gives you a little piece to start the next block that connects the first block to that one, and then the network tries to solve that problem again. That's actually a little bit harder. And then once it gets to a point where it gets too hard, it makes the problem a little bit easier. Then it just develops and grows.
It's fascinating. It sounds almost like a giant jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
You're looking for the next piece and where it's going to fit, right? So, but Erica, we've talked about some of the benefits. What are some of the drawbacks? What are some of the deficiencies or difficulties?
Yeah, I would say one of the drawbacks really is just miseducation. You know, that's what we're trying to solve here with the Blockchain Center, and I know what we're doing with the Chamber. It's just trying to make sure people properly know what's going on. Because there are a lot of benefits to blockchain technology, but not all blockchains have all of these benefits. So miseducation is probably one of the big ones. I would say another one is that it's still early. You know, we're 10 years into Bitcoin being created. You don't know what's going to happen. And this is not just for blockchain, this is for every industry, but you don't know what you don't know. And when you're dealing with something like this, where it impacts on such a global scale so many different industries, like name an industry, and I could probably tell you a way that that industry will be disrupted by this or improved. So we're early. That's probably one of the big things.
Now, technology is growing in every facet, you know, so fast.
Yeah.
I think there's I forget the exact term, but it's like technology doubles every, 2 years or
it's like
5 years,
compounding.
it's just crazy speed.
Moore's Law.
Moore's Law, yes. So, and what is that? Tell us, what is Moore's Law?
Moore's Law is what you said, that every 2 years the computing power expands. And then there's Bell's Law, which is actually my favorite law, which really Bell's Law has accurately predicted mini computers. It's accurately predicted personal phones. So this law says that every 10 years, a new technology class is created. And in order for everyone to continue to operate on the system, they must upgrade to this new technology class. So for example, like when personal computers came out, like you can't use what was happening before, you had to now have your own computer. And so this is what's kind of happening with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, is that in order for systems to continue to exist, they're going to need to now use the blockchain. So Moore's Law and Bell's Law are very indicative of what's happening.
So it's going to have to go mainstream if it's really going to survive. And so what is it that's preventing this technology from going mainstream at this point? And when do you foresee that it may be able to do that?
I would say lack of education, probably lack of developers, and then just regulation. You know, there's some uncertainty in the United States about where this is going, and so that's stopping the development. But it's really interesting to see who the big players are in this scene. You know, like who has the most patents on blockchain technology? It's Goldman Sachs, it's Bank of America, it's
IBM.
It's Fidelity, like these financial institutions that are huge.
Yeah, I would just have to harp on that. Is the regulation one is I would say one of the bigger pieces that's kind of limiting it, but in a good way. I don't think regulation is a bad thing. I think it's needed to kind of keep order in certain ways,
and to give confidence to people to use it.
Especially the ones that might not necessarily be in the field. It's very easy for us to be confident in it because of our level of knowledge in the space. But for somebody who might not, it might be a little bit intimidating or scary.
So let's shift gears and talk a little bit about locally. Perhaps, Spencer, give us an idea of some local companies that are using blockchain and how they're using it. What does it do to benefit their company?
Sure. There's a couple of them here that I like to really harp on. Grapefruit is a local company I think is doing good stuff in the financial space, fintech type stuff. when it comes to trading. Really, really cool. One of my friends has a development company, Beta Blocks. They actually work with companies to help them build blockchain type companies. My company is a real estate focused software company that's building technology in the blockchain space. So we help realtors access information a lot faster. We even are one of the only applications that can allow for a crypto transaction to take place, meaning a buyer can come to the transaction with Bitcoin and the seller can still receive USD, and we can manage that entire process. So some really cool stuff going on here in South Florida.
Jen, which companies, in your opinion, will stand to have the biggest impact as a result of this, and which ones are kind of laggards, either won't be able to use it or, at least in the foreseeable future, might not be ready for it?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny you asked that, because I was thinking about some of the larger companies here in Miami, like the cruise lines. We meet them out in the community and we ask, like, what's your plan? What's your strategy? And they're in the beginning phases. So they have task forces within their companies getting ready, and preparing. But a lot of it is that they're on the legacy systems. So they track their inventory a certain way, or, and it's difficult to map over to blockchain. So they have a strategy and they have plans, but not yet implemented, a lot of them. So I think it's going to be, year on year, we'll see more of the larger companies here in Florida, the banks, the cruise companies coming on board.
Well, speaking of larger companies, Erica, talk to us a little bit about some of the international companies, some of the global brands that are already using blockchain, and perhaps how they're using it.
Yeah, so internationally, I would say the number one people that you'll see are banks, right? Because blockchain is this technology, and then cryptocurrency with Bitcoin is the first use case of it, disrupting money. You're seeing a lot of banks be on board. So the World Economic Forum put out a report that said 40 central banks are using this technology. If you go to the Caribbean, there is a company called BIT, and they are using their central bank is now using a digital currency. And now it's not Bitcoin, but they're using a digital currency to represent their money. So internationally, I mean, you're seeing just a lot of financial technology being used here. So the global remittance system, so SWIFT, right? SWIFT is very, very slow. I mean, their wire transfers get lost, and so that's one huge portion that is being disrupted with this company called Ripple, which we'll see if that continues to exist.
It's really interesting to me that, as you described the origination of Bitcoin, it kind of rose out of some problems that were perceived to be happening in the financial industry, and yet the largest users right now seem to be the financial industry.
Exactly.
There's kind of a little bit of a story there, a back channel.
Yeah, and it's so interesting too, because so the BIS, the Bank of International Settlements, which is like the central bank of all central banks, recently, because Libra came out, which Libra, if you guys don't know, is Facebook's coin. They didn't even come out; they just put out their white paper, and the head of the BIS came out with a statement saying, hey, government needs to step in and regulate these currencies, otherwise their business is threatened. And what's interesting is to see is that, the same way that that technology disrupted the music industry, musicians don't make money the same way they used to make money.
Sure.
It's going to happen to the central banks, which is why the central banks are coming out and they're saying, all right, the government needs to protect us, but pretty sure
it's a little bit of self-preservation for the banks.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Either join us or be left behind.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, that's interesting. Well, I want to switch gears a little bit, because I think at the outset we talked about the fact that one of the inhibitors here is lack of education and lack of understanding about this, and that would go with any industry. If you're not aware of it, you're a little bit, standoffish. Right. So, Erica, you're the co-founder of the Blockchain Center here in Miami. Let's talk a little bit about the Blockchain Center, why it was set up, what do you hope it will do, and tell us a little bit about how it's been going.
Yeah, so the Blockchain Center, we opened up on June 14th, so not that long ago.
Right, I was there for the ribbon cutting.
Exactly, it was amazing. Our main goal really is just to educate people, right? So we want Miami and Miami Beach to be the best educated area in the world and really bring opportunities to our city because of this. Now, the second thing that we do is we are also a co-working office and event space, so we have space. We're actually open for free for the summer if anyone wants to come out and hang out with us, use our Wi-Fi, use our bathrooms, drink our coffee. And then the third thing is that we're an incubator for new blockchain companies. So we have a lot of resources, companies that want to start in this. We would love for you to come over. We'll set you up with developers, with a bank account, everything. So it's been going really well so far. I mean, a lot of traction. People are interested.
So how can people take advantage? Who do they call to schedule a walkthrough, or can a group come over and have some education? Or
Yes.
how is that program? Are there actual classes, or?
So I would say go to www.bitcoincenter.miami.
Let's give that again slowly.
www.bitcoincenter.miami.
Okay.
And subscribe for updates, and we'll be telling you of the upcoming classes. We do a lot of just like Bitcoin 101s to generally educate people on what it is.
Okay, and collaboratively, we have been working on something very exciting that I presented to you guys early on. The Chamber of Commerce, as you know, but our viewers may not be aware, we own a 501c3 that focuses on public school education. And we've put together, the four of us and a few others that are not with us today, a curriculum that we've actually started to teach in 5th grade. So why do you think it's important to teach students today about blockchain, and why did we focus on 5th grade? Spence.
I like to say it's because 5th graders aren't opposed to learning revolutionary technologies.
They're not afraid.
They're not afraid of it, right? So they're very welcoming, and I mean, these young minds are just so open to learning new things, and then can like really manifest that into more and greater things as they progress through their education. So hitting them early, letting them know that there's some really cool things that could potentially impact their future, and get them excited about it early on, I think is very important.
So Jen, you were immensely helpful in getting it into the first 5th grade classes. What was the reaction of the teachers and of the students with the programs that we taught?
Sure. So I guess first the teachers. At the end of our sessions with them, they came to me and said, wow, this was amazing. We felt like we were teaching something that was cutting edge, is new technology. They love history, they love science, but they felt that they were preparing the kids really for the future. So there was that sense of like, we're really making a difference. From the kids' point of view, I heard just rave reviews about all of us as teachers, which was great. I think it was fresh material, fresh faces. They were very engaged. We brought in a lot of activities, so I think the hands-on factor really like woke them up. And we also showed on the screen Bitcoin transacting and at what speed and how it all works, and they relate to it because they're online a lot of their waking hours. So it was really exciting.
And how do we foresee helping children in the next generation, and how will this help the students? Because we plan to evolve not just from 5th grade, but we plan to have something in middle school for 7th grade and a curriculum for the high school students as well as we grow this program. What do we think that's going to mean for the children in the next generation?
I think it's going to set them apart. I think that they are, well, for one, like Jen said, they are already on the internet. They already transact with some form of internet money, so they get it. This is the generation that you're going to see adopt it just because they understand it. And then I think that for us specifically in Miami Beach and Miami-Dade, getting it into the schools, that is going to, for one, as a state, I think Florida is doing very well. I mean, I don't know if you guys know, but the Dolphins just started accepting Bitcoin.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah.
Too bad I don't have any.
But as a state, I want and this is also what the Blockchain Center is doing, but I want our people to be well educated, to be well prepared for what the future is going to hold, because blockchain is going to change a lot of things. So we want to make sure that we're educating them properly and they're not getting it from some other source of information.
So Blockchain Center is the first place that they might turn, but where else might people go for information, reliable information about blockchain? Any thoughts? Other resources in the community?
YouTube is a really good teacher.
Yeah, YouTube is
Yeah,
phenomenal.
it's a great teacher.
CoinMarketCap, if you're really interested on the currency side, CoinMarketCap gives you really good information. Coinbase, again, is a really good site for resources, education on companies and what people are doing. But yeah, it's like the internet.
Yeah, it's pretty much. I mean, there are some silos that, like the Blockchain Institute of Technology, a couple different places where you can go and learn on Udemy, but it's not there's no like central place, which is why I like what we're doing.
The reason why we created Blockchain Center.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So I want to thank all of you for joining us today on this program, and I think it's been very, very enlightening. I hope our guests that viewed it learned something, and to follow up with more information, certainly contacting the Blockchain Center, maybe a tour. It's a fascinating facility there. I'm sure we'll organize something from the Chamber and have a program there as well. So I want to thank you all and thank our viewers for participating. And I want to thank WeStream for you again for putting our program together. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful day.